Hello, welcome back to BLENDERSUSHI Live Noding. In this episode, I'm gonna do a little bit more experimental project with the sound and animation nodes. I'm not gonna use Fairchoke in this case, but I'm improvise a little bit, and this is I came out with. Let me try and display it back. So I got this random music that I created using my iPhone running in the background. And we have this some kind of randomness happening. So what do you think this is? Is it particle? Is it dynamic paint? Is it animation nodes? It's actually all of them. I realized that if you're with Blender, you can sort of mix everything together if you know how. It's just even though like the particle is kind of limited at the moment, you can kind of achieve this kind of interestingness without too much trouble. See, that's now it's finished. If I actually turn off only render and then start to reveal stuff, you will start to see what's going on. Turn off matte cap. I'm gonna turn off only render. Okay, now you can see. Alright, you get that thing happening, and then you see this this weird thing. Okay, at the bottom. Okay, so what is this exactly? So there's a couple of things going on. First of all, animation nodes kind of driving this something that looks like a displacement, but this is actually the shape keys in Blender. Just like a blend shape in Maya, it's a shape keys. It's doing this just simply things going up and down. It's controlling that cube. Okay, this box thing, and the box thing is actually dynamic paint brush that's kind of transferring the weighting into this canvas. This is the canvas that's kind of emitting our monkey head, and then this guy actually I'm displacing it using cloud texture. So maybe I should turn off the monkey for now just to show you something. So with the sound and noise, yeah, I realized that the actual kind of wave doesn't really matter too much. Okay, if we are using like the frequency sampling and then sampling the frequency at a low, middle, high, and whatever, so the wave might affect the design, but if you're really just visualizing the sound in different frequency, it's gonna oops, what did I do? Okay, I hit render, sorry. We're just gonna see something that looks like a noise, like a wave noise, something like this. No matter what, it looks like a mountain, or I don't know, just like a ups and down wave. It's like a frequency, because that's how sound frequency looks like. It's not super interesting, but what's more interesting is really how the sound kind of being sampled and kind of triggering all this stuff to happen. Like in this case, in my setup, I'm kind of transferring this brush influence into this guy. It's kind of triggering the displacement of this guy. Currently it's using this cloud texture, so you already know in a way this kind of thing is kind of simulating sound wave a little bit, more or less. I get this locator that's being pushed by the time frame, and we can see this kind of thing traveling just like a sound wave if you look at it in a two-dimensional kind of way. So that's not particularly super interesting, but again, what I think more interesting is how you can transfer the data to trigger other stuff. Like in this case, it's triggering the displacement, and then the displacement itself has a weighting, and I kind of emit some particles using this guy right here, and the particle is actually using this particle hair system, but with advanced turn on, and it's emitting 100 monkey head with a hair length and stuff. Let me turn on the particles back, and I think this hair length also will affect my monkey head slightly. If you want to know this particle system technique, there are a few video tutorial, but I suggested one by Mr. Shigeto Maeda. He got one in his YouTube channel. Just search for Shigeto Maeda. Oh, sorry, this is like super slow. I'm just gonna type it in the notes here. Text editor. Go look at Shigeto Maeda-san, Professor Shigeto Maeda-san YouTube channel, and then he has one tutorial to use this kind of hair and particle kind of system. So I can recreate that real quick, but I'm not gonna do it really slow. I'm gonna do it really fast to recreate this kind of effects. But I believe this is something that you can play around with, and then you can create more interesting result by just passing the weighting. You can pass from, basically you have sound, right? The sound being sampled, and you have this amplification and intensity of the sound, and then you can also divide the sound into frequency from lower to high frequency, and then you use all those different levels of frequency to trigger other things. And in this case, we're really using the this shape keys, triggering just the shape keys on and off, and then this guy become the brush to transfer the value into the canvas, and then the canvas is kind of sort of emitting particles, but the particle itself also being influenced by the weighting of the brush. So it's a lot of things going on in the background. It's one thing triggering another thing. I think that's what interesting in this kind of setup. So yeah, I'll start from scratch actually instead of continuously talking. You can do this in many different ways. This is just one example. So we have a cube. Let's save this. Let's call this AN sound trigger everything. This is gonna be a brush. So first of all, I'm gonna create a shape key. This is gonna be the basis. The one that's important is the second one. And I'm gonna, while I'm here, I'm gonna go to edit mode and then select the vertices at the top and then just bring it up. So we can actually now have a shape keys. It's a transition from original default value into the final target. Okay, that's one thing, and then we're gonna turn this into just a wire so we can see what underneath. And then we're gonna have a plane. Actually not a plane, maybe just a grid, because we have, with the grid we have more vertices already, like that. And we want to subdivide this guy so we have more vertices. Okay, and then gonna turn this guy into a canvas, dynamic canvas, add canvas, and turn on weight. This guy is gonna be the brush. Now you can see it's already working. This guy has the shape keys that we can control to drive the weighting. You see the weighting there? Currently it's just a 0 and 1. 0 is blue, red is 1. We can turn on mesh volume and proximity and control the pane distance. You can play around with this, inner proximity, negative volume, all that fancy stuff, but we're just gonna keep it like this. And yeah, that's the start. And then now what's gonna happen is we can control this brush using animation nodes. Later on, maybe if, for a more elaborate and sophisticated setup, we're gonna use spray choke. For this one, it's simple. I'm just gonna use animation nodes, and we're still gonna be using the simple sound controller. We just gonna worry about the strength of the sound, like how loud and how soft it is. Let's load a new sound. Let's get my sound, figure sound. Which one should I pick? I think Radufu. I think Radufu is okay. And then just bake it. Once it's baked, we can use this value coming out from evaluate sound. It's just a single value. It's really nothing special. And then you can multiply this guy. Combine vector object transform. We don't need all this. Just gonna delete it. What we're gonna use is the object attribute output. We're gonna select our objects, and then here we need to type in the right attribute. Okay, the attribute should be, let me quickly check. I'm gonna open my example from before with this guy compositing. It's a data.shape keys key blocks blah 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 value. Okay, I'm gonna copy that, reopen my file, paste it in here. This guy is looking at my box here and the shape keys. If you look at the value here, data.shape keys and then key blocks and dot value. I think that the address is a little bit funky here. It's not like you can just right click and copy data path. You should be able to do that, but it's not in this case. Once you have that, you can just test it. Now that's certainly happening, but you might notice that once the weighting is on, it's kind of permanently stick on the canvas. You don't want that kind of behavior. In this case, you kind of wanna fade it in like 50 frames, for example. So now it's kind of fading on and off. Turn off slow. Maybe make it even faster. Make it fade faster. One thing you need to be careful is the evaluation of dynamic paint. By default, it's only like 250 frames. That's like too short. I'm gonna increase it to 1000. Anti-aliasing on and off, up to you. Fade, yeah, that's the important part. Turn on also DP weighting. Okay, that guy actually, the brush is like affecting it all the way. We like it to be more like this. So there's the value goes in, and then once the brush leaves the canvas, it's gonna fade out. So yeah, the setup is a bit weird, but remember that the brush can be in any shape, and then the canvas can be in any shape as well. Now we have that's happening. We can hide animation nodes, and this is like gonna be almost like real time. 15 frames per second is pretty good, and then it's we have this happening. Now the next thing we can do is to use particles. Okay, like I said, we're gonna use hair dynamics, and then use modifier stack. and make sure the dynamic pane is on top of the particle system because we want to use the weighting. So in here we need to turn on advanced. Actually, we don't want to see the hair. Somehow we, by default, we can see the hair, and then we don't need to worry about the children. I'm trying to find the weight. There is the normal here, controlling the hair, but once we replace it with an instance, like if we use a monkey head, or just use the torus for now. If we replace the hair with instance, we will see that the size here gonna control the size of the torus as well. So the size of the instance. The normal also affecting the hair growth. We have too many at the moment, 1000, so it's a bit slow. Make it 50 for now. Hair length also affecting the instance. We're gonna randomize the normal. We don't need to use hair dynamics. I want to randomize the rotation a little bit. Yeah, something like that, and then random size slightly. Brownian. Okay, turn on Brownian. If I'm not wrong, okay, nothing happens yet because we didn't specify the weighting into this hair dynamics. I think the density, okay, the density is not affecting it. Maybe I didn't do this properly. Dynamic pane, particle system. No, particle system should be down below. Subsurf, dynamic pane, particle system, and then maybe I forgot to do something. Advanced should be on, and then hair length on. Maybe the length. Yeah, the length should be affected by this weighting as well. Now everything's kind of reacting to the sound. What else? Stiffness, force, gravity, don't worry about all that. Size, velocity, global, no, rotation, scale. Turn off emitter if you don't want to see this canvas thing. If I turn on my display only the render, now we see only the torus, the instance. This is the master, right? I'm gonna hide it. The cool thing about this is everything's gonna be super interactive and fast. You can see the result right away here. Turn on matte cap so they can be smoother, I guess. Smooth. Back to donut. Okay. Ambient occlusion on. Yeah, that looks better, more 3D. To make them kind of more interesting, we can use also maybe force field, like turbulence. Turbulence actually have effects on this guy because they are like hair dynamic. I don't know. Should we make it like dynamic or just animating this guy over in a 3D space? Let me try. Strength, size, make it flowing. Seed, noise. Frame size seems to be only affecting it on frame 1 just now. So really here, if you understand Blender particles really well, this is gonna be beneficial for you. Otherwise, you're just gonna need to try and error, like experiment a little bit. Jitter, random vertices, velocity, tangent, rotation, hair dynamics. Let me try that. I don't know if we should use this. Maybe this kind of give additional effect on top of what we have right now. I kind of want to see them kind of moving by itself. I don't know, just add a hair dynamics and less stiff, more random, damping, leave it, air drag, internal friction, density, target. I hardly use this. Cache. Maybe I need to turn this on. 1000. Maybe eventually we need to do some baking. I have not tried keyed, voids, and fluid. Let's just stick to the Newtonian for now. Turn on drag, damping slightly. Size. I think everything else should kind of. Wow, we don't need to use that, I think. So let's try again. Slightly more dynamics, but still being affected 100% by this brush. But I guess that's still, you know, it's already quite interesting in itself. So it's almost like they are dancing to the sound, even though they are really just Blender hair particle dynamics, and they're kind of pretty stiff at the moment. I kind of want them to move a little bit more. Maybe cut this to 450 or 500. Maybe there definitely needs to be more dynamics. Maybe there is like one options that it's gonna do the job to make the hair more dynamic. I have fields here, but it doesn't do much. I have flow already, size. Maybe with our canvas, gonna turn that on. make sure it's like fading a little bit slower. I was just kind of testing all the attributes. Maybe there is one more attributes that we can turn on to control the hair and instance, or maybe there is a not. Maybe we cannot do that. It's a density, length, clumping, roughness, kink, force field setting, self effect. Okay, self effect, turbulence. You reckon that moves a bit more? I might need to give it a test after this live video, but yeah, that's almost pretty much it I want to discuss in this video. So again, this is like you have a sound and then you sample it and you get this like a different intensity of the sound, the loudness, that kind of triggering in this case a dynamic paintbrush, and the brush itself kind of emitting this weighting that you can use to trigger other things. In this case, it's just like hair dynamics and instancing. But yeah, anyway, if you didn't show all that and you just show the people the final result, they will kind of wondering, okay, how did you do that, you know? It's actually really simple, right? It's just everything kind of working together. Sometimes you can do that in Blender very easily. Yeah, so if you have any question, feedbacks, suggestion, just let me know down below. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll see you in the next video.